This week's podcast is sponsored by Sevenoaks Sound and Vision. Sevenoaks provide expert, impartial advice to their customers and have been doing so for over 45 years. You can enjoy free UK delivery on all online orders or click and collect from any of their 25 stores. Visit ssav.com to view the wide range of AV products and find your nearest store. Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast for Monday the 4th of February 2019. It's February already. Joining me on this edition is Kaz Harlow.
Sometimes your whole life boils down to one insane move.
Ed Selley.
Learn well, Jake Sully, and we will see if your insanity can be cured.
And Steve Withers.
Shut up and fly straight.
That kind of gives it away, Ed, your one, because you've mentioned a character's name, but never mind.
Well, as I say,
could be about.
He doesn't know that. He's never seen it.
Yeah.
Could be Miracle on the Hudson.
Good one. I like that, Kaz. Well done. So last week we...
Actually, especially with Withers' quote as well, when you think about it.
Shut up and
Yeah, excellent.
So quite the dummy there, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all know it's not Sally, but never mind. So, we missed the fact that we reached 250 episodes last week. It kind of just passed us all by, which is kind of surprising, given that's 250 weeks of rubbish.
They always blur into one.
But we're actually coming up to episode 500. I know this sounds odd, but the podcast has been going since 2006. So we're actually on, I think it's 497 at the minute, or this will be 498. So we're coming up for 500. So at least we could do something for that one anyway.
We'll forget that as well, because we'll do it in a hurry, and we'll make a big deal about 501, like Brian Lara.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Snowgeddon. It's been quite snowy this week. I think even you people down south got some snow for a change.
It did.
That's the only time it ever makes the news. Basically. It snows every year up north, never get to mention.
It snows every week.
In London. Yeah. Even in the summer.
Yeah, it was quite amusing watching the news and stuff.
Actually, I got snowed in.
No, you just couldn't be asked to. There was enough snow that you couldn't be asked to do anything about it.
No, I got snowed in as well.
Yeah,
I live on a close, so there's no through traffic, and it's just an ice rink out there. Been sledding today. It's an absolute ice rink. You wouldn't want to drive on it. You wouldn't want to walk on it.
Well, I'll be honest. The last week, it snowed on the Friday, but the Thursday morning, I got in the car and it proudly informed me it was -6. And someone had got their day off literally to a cracking start by putting water that was far too hot onto their windscreen and splitting it on top and bottom. Yeah. And I really felt for them as I hit the heated windscreen button on my car and sort of just waited for it to clear. But that was. I mean, but I have to say, that Thursday morning, I took the boy to school, which is a drive of some meaningful distance, because it's rather closer to my old house than my current house. But it was gobsmackingly beautiful, very dangerous, but absolutely beautiful. One of those moments where if it had been safe to get on Instagram, I'd have done some pics, but it really wasn't. So
I've done plenty catching up, because obviously with the weather and all the rest of it, even though I'm dying to get out and drive the new car, it ain't going anywhere. So I've caught up with everything this past week. So I've watched Discovery, so I'm up to date with Discovery. Watched it on the big screen. You said it was in scope, Steve. So put it up on the projector and watched it on that. I did manage to catch some episodes of Family Guy season 17 or series 17. So I've caught up with some of them. There's still some coming along. I'm up to date with Orville. I watched The Greatest Showman for the first time. Absolutely love it.
Did you notice how the Orville episode and the Discovery episode were kind of the same thing, weren't they?
Yes, I did notice that one, and I noticed that
all overlap now.
yeah, and I noticed Frakes done a few of these as well, directed a few of them as well. Yeah, that was entertaining. Like I say, I caught up with Great Showman. I'd never seen it before. I've seen it in umpteen demos that we've sat in, Steve, so I eventually picked a disc up in Vegas. I've got to say it's one of my new favourites. I absolutely love it. Even though it's complete hokum, the whole thing.
It's bollocks.
Yeah, but the songs are really good, and and it zips along at a nice pace, so I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm also up to date with Wheeler Dealers, the Grand Tour, and Top Gear starts soon as well, so there's plenty of TV to watch. I'm quite enjoying it now. I'd managed to sit down and catch up. Super Bowl's on tonight. Anybody interested in the Super Bowl?
Couldn't give a It's an incomprehensible sport played at an improbably slow speed by an incredibly large number of people.
Okay. Kaz, you Super Bowl?
I don't follow it, I'm afraid. I have slightly more respect for it, but I don't follow it.
Well, I have none, so I mean, any would be.
Yeah,
American sports. It seems to be designed to work its way around advert breaks.
No, it's stats. Americans are fascinated with stats. You watch any American sport and it's all about the stats. It's all about what he did last game and what he's doing this game. I got into it back in '85 when the Chicago Bears won the Super Bowl with the fridge and that kind of thing. It was a big thing back then. I haven't watched it for years, but they've started doing it on YouTube. So you can catch all the games on YouTube about an hour after the finish now. So I've actually started getting back into it now, and on Monday morning I'm flicking through the games I want to see and sitting watching them. Like a 17-minute highlight reel, but yeah, I've gotten back into it because of that. But I get what you're saying, Ed, about it being, if you don't understand it and you don't have the time to get into it, because baseball, I have not a clue what baseball's about. But because I got into it in the '85 into American football, I've kind of, and I was young at the time. So when you're young, you're interested and you learn all these things. So I'm kind of up to speed with it. So
I will say that American football names, they're good. People have some cracking names in American football. I mean, better than NASCAR, and that is saying something. I would also say that NASCAR possibly is the exception that proves the rules on stats, because it's like, he's just driven fast in an oval for 600 laps, and he's drunk less than many of the other people there, so he's the fastest.
Yeah. Well,
so
the other reason I wanted to bring the Super Bowl up is because I was absolutely blown away by this fact. It is not in 4K. It's seemingly the biggest show on the planet, the biggest sporting event on the planet, by seemingly the most advanced country in the world and all the rest of it. It's in 720p.
Yeah.
Everywhere, it's in 720p. You cannot get it in 4K anywhere. I just find that.
In fairness, it's 720 60p, so the motion looks good. But yeah, well, first of all, it's not the biggest sporting event on the planet, is it? I mean, it's.
Oh, no, it's not. But
it's 100 million people are going to be watching it, but most of them are going to be in America. You compare it to the World Cup final, and that's a sporting event.
Yeah, but you know what Americans like with self-promotion and all the rest of it. So, but yeah, I was amazed with that. I would have thought that it would have been 4K, and it's not. So there you go. Right, so what have you been up to this week, Steve? Anything interesting?
Not really, no. I mean, like I said, I was literally snowed in. So I raced back on Thursday to beat the weather. I've been testing this projector I'm going to be talking about in a minute. I haven't done much else really. I caught up on some films. So I watched the House with the Clock in its Walls, which I really enjoyed. Although I was surprised to see I got the US disc, and reading Simon's review, I was disappointing to see the UK doesn't get an Atmos soundtrack because it's really good. I watched The Predator, not so good, and All the Money in the World. Having seen Trust last year on TV, the Danny Boyle miniseries, Ridley Scott's version did disappoint in comparison. Plus, Mark Wahlberg's nowhere near as good as Brendan Fraser. All we basically do is play Spot the reshoots.
Right. And
there's a whole little there's a little featurette about them getting rid of Spacey and replacing him with a far more appropriate, I have to say, Christopher Plummer. But at no point did they mention Kevin Spacey's name. It's like he doesn't exist.
Literally ghosted. Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Who's Kevin Spacey?
I'm Kevin Spacey.
Well, I wouldn't go with that one.
I'm just trying to remember what the line was at the end of Usual Suspects. It's something about existing. If you
oh yeah, the greatest devil ever Paul was convinced in the world he didn't exist.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, he's gone. Yeah. Okay. So that's what Steve's been up to. I guess, Kaz, you've been the same. You'll have been snowed in this week. So
I suspect slightly more fun with kids, snowmen, snowball fights. They're still at the age where they can't really do much with snowballs, so everybody got annihilated, including the wife. So I was picking windscreen-sized pieces of snow up and slinging them like something out of a Christopher Reeve Superman fight scene in the Fortress of Solitude, and they were all getting wiped out. I think there's a scene where he freezes a lake, and he
that's in
picks it up.
Superman 3 where he uses it to put out fires, doesn't he?
It was like that yesterday. So I think they've dried out by now. We did sledding, which is awesome. That was basically me dragging everybody around on the sled.
Is that the same as sledging?
That's slightly different.
I don't know. It was cool runnings all the way. So it was a lot of fun. And,
Good.
But couldn't get out of the house, like Steve says. So evenings have been watching a lot of Netflix.
I gathered that, judging by the review. You became Netflix.
Yes, I'm very, very worn out. And one of the shows, in fact, it's curious. You watch enough of these shows, and they mess with your head at like 2:00 in the morning. So one of the shows is there's a lot of different alternate universes and a lot of Groundhog Day stuff going on. And so I left it feeling like I think I dropped something in the kitchen, and I was like, well, next time I go into the kitchen, I won't drop it. You know, I suddenly had a slight delusion about reality there. So a little bit too much Netflix. I might take a break for a couple of weeks.
Actually, just on Friday, I thought, there's lots of new stuff on Netflix. I'll wait till for Sunday and see what Kaz thinks of them before I can't bother to commit.
Yeah, it's getting like that, isn't it? It's right. So I think we're all caught up, unless Ed did something even more spectacular.
Well, I wasn't completely snowed in, so it's been a fairly normal working week. I've, only moderately late. My January reviews have gone up onto the site. People always ask, when you've talked about this, when's it going up? And that insinuates that I have some control over this. I have fed the machine, and now the machine will decide in what order they appear and when. I don't question the machine. The machine just goes ahead and does it.
By machine, you mean Phil?
Well, yeah. By which I mean the biomechanical entity that is AVForums. Yeah. I've given them the work. After that, it's up to them what they choose to do with it.
Yeah, but it's like a month's work. So the thing is, we talk about it too early.
Yeah,
because it's a month's work and it's supposed to get staggered out over the month, not all in one go. So that's why sometimes we talk about it in the podcast and it doesn't appear for 4 weeks.
Yeah,
it's just the way the cookie crumbles, basically.
I will say I have been treated to one of the best options lists of product I've ever seen in my life. I am reviewing a pair of loudspeakers, not in this instance for AVF, but they turned up, or rather I went to collect them on Thursday, and they're a pair of stand mount speakers. They are about 37 centimeters tall, and they're £10,998. And I thought that's quite spendy, but when I got the price list, it's even better than that. They come with these funny little platforms, which are not included for your £10,998. They're another £2,400. If you'd like grills, that is to say a piece of cloth on a metal frame, they're £335 a pair. Or you can have a machined aluminium trim ring to hide some of the driver fixings. So they're £640 a pair.
Yeah,
I am in the wrong job.
So if we go for the fully spec'd kit,
£14,429 for a pair of stand mount loudspeakers.
Are those the ones that you put a photograph up on Instagram? Yeah, they don't look much for the money, do they?
The problem is, having been entirely derogatory, it is a ridiculous sum of money. I am currently just considering my list of excuses as to how I can retain these for as long as I possibly can. This is not a forgiving environment for testing high-end audio equipment, and they have dialed into this room. That in itself is quite an engineering achievement. And I've had a good weekend with them. Let's leave it at that. So
okay,
that's good. Especially as I can't do the pub quiz anymore. So
yeah. Right. So the voices of the listeners have spoken, and they've said that Kaz has to read out the competitions because he did it so well last week. And unfortunately for them, all the prizes are really, really good this week. So on you go, Kaz.
Win a Yamaha Musicast 50 speaker worth £399. That sounds pretty good. That closes 11th of March. I've already entered it 500 times. Win a GT Omega Racing Pro office chair worth £199. That closes 20th of February. Less useful. Win a pair of Mission QX2 bookshelf speakers in rosewood worth £399. That closes 12th of March.
Now that is well worth entry. That is an absolutely fabulous pair of loudspeakers. Unreasonably good for £400.
And obviously, Ed, the Yamaha is also quite good as well, isn't it?
Yamaha's pretty good.
And the Yamaha's not in rosewood.
No, the Yamaha's in black. But nonetheless, or white. All right, fair enough. But the Mission, it's one of those things. I spend a lot of time listening to loudspeakers, as I've just said, at varying price points. They are all of the recent Mission products. I have. If you'd asked me to guess how much they cost, I've got it wrong by roughly a margin of 100% in terms of what I assume they cost relative to their performance, and indeed the way they're built, the way they look. Those are a fantastic pair of loudspeakers. So enter that one.
I might enter that one because it closes on my birthday, so which is the 12th of March, people. 12th of March. So I might enter that.
Fair enough. Yeah, go for it. I was genuinely blown away by them.
All competitions open to eligible AVForums members resident in the UK, but not employed by AVForums.
Yeah, well.
Does it say that?
That's Phil.
Yeah, just putting that out there. Phil.
It should just say that. Yeah, it just has to say.
Except Phil.
That's what it should say because I'm the only employee. So it just. I suppose
it's a loophole because Stuart's the owner.
Yeah, he can enter.
Yeah,
but no, in terms, that's actually some great competition things. But if you for whatever reason you only have the time to enter one, just make sure it's the Mission because it's fantastic.
Yes, but there are other prizes worth winning as well, just to keep it balanced and fair. Right, okay.
The chair fascinates me. I will say that, but I still can't work out if I can fit a 6-point harness to it.
Well, it's got the. I think it does have the top harness holes at the top. So
yeah, I saw that, but I don't know if it's got the wherewithal. I mean, just for obviously, if I'm doing some extreme office work,
yeah,
the idea of being able to withstand a significant impact in the event of me doing
like trying to get a month's work done before the end of the month. Yeah.
No, that's never going to happen. No, especially not in a 28-day month. Just so we're absolutely clear on this.
Right, so I'll be getting February's stuff on the 6th of March. Then is that right?
I mean, at some point it will reset, but there's reasonable odds we ain't going to make it to 28 with everything there. Although I have got 2 of the 4 products here already, so it's not all bad. And I will put them up on Trello to let you know what they are soon as well.
Excellent. Right. Kaz, any previous competition winners?
It says no. I think it lies, but it says no.
All right. Okay. Well, that's everything that we're up to date with. Hardware News is next. Okay, so hardware news, and we've got some reviews this week. So Steve's been looking at a projector, which is unusual for Steve. You haven't done projectors
I didn't used to be until you started blagging them all.
Yeah. No, I think I've always been the projector reviewer on this team. But
that's not true. We used to divvy them up.
That's what you used to think happened. But anyway, you've had a look at the new Epson. Just because I've been so busy, I haven't had time to look at it. You volunteered. You've had a look at it. I guess it's been a while since you've seen one in for review, because I'm trying to think the last time I saw one, and that was a good 18 months ago.
Well, you did the previous generation. You did this is the EH-TW700. You did the EH-TW700, which was basically last year.
Yeah.
I think I did the generation before that, so I did the 7200, but you did last year's. And I've got to say, you gave it a Best Buy badge last year, and quite right too, because it is a ridiculously fantastic piece of kit for the money. This new generation, I asked Epson, I said, what's the difference between a 7300 and 7400? And they sent me a little email, which I'm pretty sure is wrong, because they said, well, I think it's slightly brighter, next to 100 lumens, but that's neither here nor there. But they said, the previous one was a full HD, and this one is 4K Pro UHD. It's not native 4K, and the previous generation, the one you reviewed, wasn't what you'd call just a full HD projector, because it did, eShift, or their version eShift. Yeah. So does this one. So in reality, there's almost no difference. Really, they're basically the same projectors. Obviously, just a refresh of the model for the new year. Having said that, frankly, I can't see how they could have made it much better than it already was. The big difference this year is that you can get this one for £1,799.
Right.
And that's
stonking value because
that's insanely good value.
The one thing that because you're talking about DLP at that kind of price point, which will be a bit brighter, but obviously has a color wheel and can't do wide color. So DLP does their flash. It's either 4 flashes or 2 flashes, depending on the chip size. But it can't do wide color, and it certainly can't do HDR in any meaningful way. And the Epson, if I remember right, actually did a decent enough job of trying to get wide color gamut right, because it does. I think it uses a filter.
Yeah, it does. It's so it's obviously 3-chip LCD. In the case of the Epson, you're right, it uses a filter. It can deliver 72% of Rec 2020, 98 to 99% of DCI-P3, and obviously you can deliver 100% of Rec 709. And it does so with the reasonable amount of accuracy too, even out of the box. The natural mode gives you a very accurate picture actually for SDR content. And then when it comes to HDR, there are a number of options. There's auto and auto bright. And there's also what's called HDR1, HDR2, HDR3, and HDR4. From sort of fiddling around with it, auto bright is HDR1, auto is HDR2, and then HDR3 and HDR4 tone map more accurately. So HDR4 is actually the one that tone maps the most accurately. But obviously, then you have an issue with the dark bits being very dark. Whereas the sort of brighter options do give you a bit more detail in the darker parts of the image. And obviously, as you know full well, Phil, the big problem with HDR projection is obviously that you're tone mapping 1,000 or 4,000 nit content down to something that's delivering a couple hundred nits at most. So it can be a struggle. However, I've got to say I delivered a really nice HDR image and a great SDR image, and it's got lens memory, a motorized lens cover, it's got calibration controls, it can accept a 4K signal and accept HDR. It's not native at 4K, as I said earlier. It uses eShift, but all that for £1,799.
Yeah, no,
I defy you to find anything else that's that good value.
Yeah, I guess what we have to say here at this point is that there are weaknesses, obviously, at this price point.
Major weakness.
And
There's one major weakness.
That's the black levels.
Yeah, the blacks are crap.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
Let's get around that. The blacks are not. You compare it to JVs or something like that. There's no comparison. The blacks are not great, but that is, in fairness, pretty much the only weakness to this project.
And then if you're looking at £1,700, find something else that does decent blacks at that money price.
They're going to have crap blacks too.
Yeah.
So, and also, obviously, it depends on your room. Now, in my pitch black home cinema, that weakness was very, very obvious. That would be less obvious in less ideal conditions. And it's a bright projector, 2,400 lumens, so it can go pretty bright. So if you're using it in a room with lighter coloured walls, you'll find that those blacks aren't so obvious. And in fact, it would be a really good choice for an environment like that. And at that kind of price, you're going to struggle to find anything even comes close to that level of performance for that money.
What about motion, Steve? Because that was one issue I did find with the Epson. Obviously, DLP is really quite nice because it's got a fast refresh and all the rest of it. Whereas you're talking about sample and hold tech with the Epson.
Yeah. No, I mean the motion was perfectly acceptable. It's not as good as it would be on a Dolby projector. There is frame interpolation available if you want to use it, say for sport. But with movies, I didn't have an issue with the motion at all. I thought it looked fine. So I wouldn't worry about that. The one thing that stands out, and it is really the only negative I can say about this projector, is the black levels and the shadow detail. That's unfortunately not great. But otherwise, it's cracking value. I couldn't believe how much. When I looked, because I didn't actually know the price initially, I was just testing it. I thought, I wonder how much it costs. I was thinking about the podcast, and I thought, you've got to be kidding me! £1,799.
Yeah. No, I remember them.
Quiet too. 21 decibels in eco lamp mode, which is nice.
Yeah. So any color cast to the image as well, because I do remember back with this 7300, I think it did out of the box have quite a green cast to the image. So
it was actually pretty accurate out of the box. I was quite impressed with that. The gamma needed a bit of work. Color of white. There's a tiny. Actually, interestingly, you said it had a bit of a green tinge. Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, this has got a slight cyan tinge. but very slight. I mean, almost not imperceptible, to be honest. So out of the box, obviously, it's a bulb-based projector. It can vary quite rapid, quite wildly from one projector to the next, because you're talking about the bulb, how long you run it in for, how many hours are on the bulb, that sort of thing can change its characteristics. But certainly in this example, out of the box, it delivered after I'd run it in for a little bit first, obviously, before I did any testing. It delivered a really accurate picture.
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of plus points there. The big one for me is obviously the color gamut coverage, being so wide at that price point. You can forget about the brightness in terms of HDR and all the rest of it. Is going to be slightly brighter than SDR, but for me, it's more about color accuracy when it comes to the Epson. That's what knocked me out with the 7300, and it sounds like the 7400 is very close to that as well. Yeah,
it is. Yes, I was very impressed.
Good stuff. So there you go. If you got £1,700, you can either go and get a DLP or you can get an Epson. And like I say, there's lots of pros and cons in both of those. Look out for Steve's review. When will I be getting that, Steve?
Towards the end of the week.
Okay, so there you go. Look towards the end of the week for that review. Right. Let's go and talk about something that's in Ed's pocket. Ed, is that a Sennheiser IE800S in your earphone in your pocket, or are you just pleased to see us?
Oh, both. I'm always delighted to see you, or indeed just hear your dulcet tones. But no, I've been looking at these because there's two reasons. The first is that there's going to be a couple of earphone reviews go through. There's actually one in my clutch of reviews that I've just put up for this month, and there was one from AKG month before. We're in a big state of change with earphones at every price point, from £30 up to well over £1,000, because the whole market was driven by smartphones. And if you were prepared to drop several £100s on a smartphone, people were prepared to drop a lot of money on earphones or headphones, but in this specific case, earphones to go with it. Now, Sennheiser came up with the original IE800 couple of years ago now, sort of 2012, 2013 time. They were £600, and I tested them at the time for AVForums, and it was like, you're testing a pair of £600 earphones, are you mad? To which we know the answer is that I am, but I felt it was worth it anyway. I awarded them a perfect score, and I believe I was sufficiently emboldened to say that they were the best all-round earphone on the planet. Because you could plug them into high quality headphone amplifier and they'd blow you away, but you could get up on a Monday morning, slap them into your smartphone, listen to Spotify, and they were still outstanding. Their just ability to deliver all round excellence was untouchable. Now, the 800S has turned up. It's received some of the same sort of detailing that the HD 800S full size headphone has received. And the price has gone up to a not inconsequential £869, which for a pair of earphones is quite a lot. I mean, in contrast to Steve's value message from Epson, this isn't quite the same thing, unfortunately. But it's a testament to how much things have changed, that the IE800S is better in every way than the IE800, but I still have awarded it it's a good review, but it's nowhere near as positive as the original, because unlike the AKG N5005 that a review went up for last month, which has the option of running as a wired or a wireless earphone, you simply change the cable between a conventional wired device or a Bluetooth yoke. Sennheiser is exclusively wired, and it's still an outstanding earphone. I've enjoyed listening to it enormously. But it just, if you like, it feels like the last of an old way of doing things. A brilliant evolution of that, but still old tech compared to what new high-end earphones are going to have to do. And it's a weird one. You can read the review. It's a very peculiar case in terms of tonal balance. That I love it. I love the way it performs. It does things which, it has the ability to move the soul when you're listening to music that you love. It's outstanding. But I these days use a phone with no headphone socket. I can't actually use it out and about at the moment. And that's the thing. It's just one of those things. I was trying to work out how I might finish that. It just feels like there's a now, having tested a couple of devices which have got answers to this problem, it just feels, as I say, like the last of an old way of doing things. It's a tremendous product, but it's not. It's no longer no longer the best all-round earphone on the planet. That's for sure.
And it's now more expensive than it was to begin with.
Yes, I mean, admittedly, that's part of a wider trend. I mean, earphone prices have gone bananas in the last 4 years. I've tested them up to and including over £2,000.
Bloody Brexit.
Well, no, it's more also
I'm joking.
But the AKG, as I say, listening to them wired into a really high-quality DAC headphone amp device, the Sennheiser is better than the AKG. But the Sennheiser has to stay here, whereas the AKG, I can change the cable over and take it out on a Monday morning as my commuting earphone.
It's a bit of an issue for an £800 set of headphones, or earphones. Actually, in-ear earphones, for that matter.
It's a very peculiar one. I don't want to come down as a downer. If you've still got a headphone socket on your phone, Sennheiser is extraordinary because it is impressively sensitive. It will genuinely behave with no more sort of demand on your phone than a sort of £50 to £70 pair of earphones. But it's capable of truly outstanding performance. And there's other little things that are brilliant as well. It's small, it's subtle. I mean, people want different things out of portable products. I personally do not, under any circumstances, want it to suggest to strangers on the tube that I've spent a lot of money on it. That's not really on my list of things I want. And the Sennheiser, it's beautifully made, but it just looks like a tiny little pair of earbuds. Whereas there are, some months ago, I tested a pair of earphones from Audersey for another publication at £2,400, and they did look a bit ritzy. It must be said.
Right.
It sort of, had "Please mug me" written all over them. So, so they get so much right. And I would say this is a challenge to Sennheiser. The design of them has a cable break halfway up the cable, like the old version did. If Sennheiser can come up with a wireless solution that attaches at that cable break point that works like the AKG one does, I will gladly update the review to take that into account, because that could mean that it could come back fighting, so to speak. But as it stands, it just, if you like, feels like the last of an old way of doing things.
And you see the old way of doing things, I know I'm old, and I'm 45 this year, so I am getting on a bit now. For me, what really became an annoyance just a few weeks ago was when I got on the plane to go to Vegas. I grabbed my Bose noise cancelling earphones. I thought, got my iPhone with me, and I've downloaded some stuff off Tidal and Spotify for when I listen to tunes on the plane and all the rest of it. What I forgot was that there's no headphone jack on my iPhone 8 Plus. And the little connector that I needed was connected to a pair of AKGs that I didn't bring with me because I thought, I don't need those, I just need my Bose.
Yes.
So I was then sat on the plane with no way of plugging into my iPhone to listen to music.
Yes. I mean, there's pros and cons to this move away from headphone sockets. As I say, I did that one-off phone review of the Essential phone, and in the interest of full disclosure, Essential just have left it here. It's the phone that I'm using day to day. I haven't missed not having a headphone socket anything like as much as I thought I would, but nevertheless, you just rather than reaching for an adapter, I'm always going to prefer to go full wireless. And what I thought was so clever about what AKG had done is that without in any way really compromising the wired performance of the N5005, they've made sure that it had a way forwards of working across all the requirements a customer might have. And now really the ball is in Sennheiser and everybody else's court to how to do the same thing, because AKG has shown that it's actually really not that well. I mean, there's obviously going to be engineering challenges, but the solution for the customer isn't very difficult at all. And if earphones are still going to be part of a growth industry that people are going to make business out of, they need to adapt. It would be naive to believe that smartphone manufacturers are going to accommodate you any longer than they have to, and they're already not. So you have to come up with a solution.
Is air crash investigation going to be full of planes falling out of the skies now because everybody wearing earphones has got wireless transmitting earphones, and that's going to be an issue, isn't it?
I don't know. I have no idea about the perniciousness of Bluetooth communications. I would say that when I test Bluetooth products, if I can schedule a trip to London, I will, because walking through a mainline railway station, the number of Bluetooth pairings that you will walk past is, incredibly high on a journey across from one end of the station to the other. And things where the Bluetooth implementation isn't all it could be, you'll get dropouts and interference. But when it's done properly, it's as stable as you like. So, whether that's having an effect on the airline industry, I don't know. But there is, incidentally, I don't want to be a pedant here. Someone has thought about this, because there is, if you turn on airplane mode, I really want to say aeroplane mode, but airplane mode is how it's actually described. If you then activate Bluetooth, it doesn't give you every last piece of functionality that Bluetooth has when you've got network connection. There's clearly some cuts and bits and bobs that seem to be done to presumably make sure that you don't die in a fireball because you want to listen to your headphones. So, more power to Bluetooth, I would say. So, okay. If it's any consolation, if you're going, these £870 earphones or £900 earphones are totally and utterly irrelevant to me. The good news is the next pair of wireless earphones, the reviews been added to the site, £70. So it's not just about talking at the bonkers end of things. I'm covering, and these ones, if you are an iPhone user, you'll want to read that review, because the Bluetooth fitment for that is bob on for iPhone users.
Right. Okay, grand. Good stuff. Before we wrap up on this section of the podcast, I did say it was the beginning of the month. It's February already. So what have we got coming up for review? What can people look forward to this month? So, Steve, what are you doing for us this month?
I've got this projector I just spoke about a moment ago. Then I've got a couple of soundbars, actually. The command bar from Polk, which has got a Amazon Alexa built into it, literally built into it, and also the Wharfedale Vista 200S, which is a slightly new version that's a soundbar and sub combo. And also I'll be getting the 75-inch Samsung Q900 8K TV in for review.
Okay, good stuff. So, as you probably gather, it is February. We're not expecting, I'm expecting the first TVs to kind of hit in April from Sony. That's the latest prediction anyway. Everything else is going to be a little bit later than that. So, while it's quiet, I'm actually going to look at some AVRs for a change. Haven't looked at AVRs for a while. So, we have the Yamaha 3080 coming in. I'm going to have a look also at their processor, which I think you've seen, Steve, the 5200. So I'm going to be looking at that, but with their amplifier, so it'll be the first time the combo has been reviewed together. And then I've also got a couple of Marantz AVRs coming in. So I've got the NR1509 and the 7013. SR7013, and it's been a while since I did any Marantz stuff. In fact, I'm thinking back, I've actually done any Marantz. I think it's all been Denon that I've looked at, so that could be new for me as well. So lots of AVRs coming in, and also got the long-term reviews to do, so those will get done as well in the next few weeks. So that's what I'm looking at. Ed?
I've got the Name Unity Nova. This is the biggest of the Unity systems. We've looked at the other two. This one is well over £4,000, which is quite a lot of money for a single box system. So it's time to work out why. And given that the one below it, the Star, does everything, and this one actually does less, we need to work out what that means and whether it's any good. There is a complete system. It's the first time I've been testing something like this in quite a long time. I don't know if I've done this. I think I have done it once before for AVF, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But it is electronics and speakers from Harman Luxury Audio. And the reason it's going through as a complete system is because it is also being marketed as a complete system, and something that you, the AVForums listener, can actually buy in its entirety. So I thought, let's test the whole thing and see if it's any good or not. And then the other two, it's relatively early in the month. It's still in single digits, so I don't know what the other two are going to be yet, but they'll be amazing.
Okay. Thanks for that. Right, so that's what's coming up this month anyway, or what we've planned so far is coming up this month. It is a short month, so we better get our skates on, because like I say, it's already the 4th. So that's it for hardware. We'll be back in a sec with movie reviews and some streaming news as well. Okay, so moving on to movie reviews and news, and like we say, Kaz has been snowed in and he's been watching more Netflix than he usually does. You've been hammering Netflix, so tell us what you've been looking at, Kaz.
Well, I happened across a show called Russian Doll. That's the first one that piqued my interest. I didn't think I was really going to go for it, but it turned out to be a little bit of a gem. It's a 8-part series. They're all 25-minute episodes, which are very easily digestible, and it does work very well as a binge watch. So it's kind of like a feature-length film or an epic film if you want to watch it all in one go. Natasha Lyonne is from Orange is the New Black, but she actually created this and co-wrote it, as well as being the star. And she's almost like a stand-up comic in it to start with. She plays a woman at a party, her own birthday party, who dies and comes back. And she's at her party and she has to relive the party repeatedly. It starts off being very Groundhog Day, and you wonder whether it's just going to go down that route. But it takes in a lot of other time travel, alternative timeline aspects, from everything from, I don't know, Interstellar to Looper to every good time travel movie. And it does it really well because it's just a comedy to begin with. But after a few episodes, you actually start caring about the characters and what they're going through and wondering what on earth they're going to do to fix this mystery. It takes in some quite high-level science later on, which is a little bit confusing from a show that starts as a comedy. But the blend works very well. So I thought that was quite a gem to come across. And I found it very addictive. As I say, you can binge a lot of it because they're bite-sized and there are only 8. So get your teeth into that one. Nightflyers is another show I happened across. George R.R. Martin, guy behind Game of Thrones, who everyone complains doesn't write enough Game of Thrones. Well, back in the 80s, he wrote this short story, Nightflyers, a novella, and they made it into, I think, an 87 movie, which is he credits with having helped catapult his career, even though it completely flopped and no one particularly knows about it. Netflix have got teamed up with Sci-Fi, the Sci-Fi channel, to come up with this Nightflyers TV show, and it's basically, and I appreciate Event Horizon came a lot later, but it's basically Event Horizon, the TV show. And it's got some really nice Cronenbergian sci-fi horror in there. Lots of organic computer body horror going on, and some nice shocks and deaths, as well as a nice world building with some high concept ideas about being able to play back your own memories and kind of relive them all, and how that integrates with ship's AI maybe going a little bit haywire, like out of 2001, and how that can mess with your memories. Add into that, it's got a psychic who's on board the ship, because it's about a ship that's essentially going to make first contact, and they need the psychic to communicate with the aliens. It's quite lucky they have psychics in the future. And he's messing with people's minds as well. So it's got a lot of nice ideas thrown into the pot, a nice dark sci-fi horror vibe. And I really enjoyed it. Feedback on the forums doesn't look like everybody has got on board with that, but I think if you give it the full run, it's 10 episodes. I'd be surprised if it didn't get commissioned for another season. And I enjoyed that. In terms of Netflix movies, we've got Dan Gilroy's latest. Now, he teamed up with Jake Gyllenhaal for Nightcrawler, which was about Gyllenhaal's reporter going to extreme lengths to cover crime and accidents, basically.
I absolutely loved that film.
Yeah,
Thoroughly
it's a very engaging, completely psychotic movie, and it's very moody, very intoxicating. There was a lot of buzz around Velvet Buzzsaw because of Nightcrawler, and Netflix hasn't yet ever managed to live up to that kind of prior expectation. Perhaps coming close with Annihilation off the back of Ex Machina, but otherwise you're always looking at the director's previous work and then looking at their Netflix work, and you're wondering why it's the same director. He does quite well here to make it feel like it's not a Netflix movie. I think the biggest problem with it is that the director's never handled horror before. So he does this fantastic viewpoint of psychotic human behavior in the normal world, often satirizing things like the news and reporters. He could have gone there here, because the story is all about the ridiculously over-the-top world of high art and the art dealers and the artists themselves, critics, everything. And it's a very narcissistic, over-the-top world. And he could have just focused on that, like in Nightcrawler, and maybe enhanced it a little bit. But he goes full supernatural horror, and it's not his forte. So whilst it's an interesting blend, it's kind of odd. There's someone commented in the forums, I didn't catch it before I wrote the review, but I did vaguely think about it in the back of my head. There's a bit of a reverse Dorian Gray thing going on. You'll see and figure it out. It's got some nice ideas about paintings coming alive and that kind of thing. But I would say that it would have been more interesting had he just played it completely straight and skipped the horror, because the world is just so horrible as it is. Anyway, it's a trio of things. Netflix clearly nail their TV shows more consistently than they do their movies, but they still churn out a hell of a lot, and it certainly kept me busy.
Kaz, do you think that when you've finished this podcast, you'll go back down to your television and it will be Netflix will be there going, Kaz, are you still there? Still alive?
I'm going to take a 2-week break.
Longest sustained break you've had all weekend.
I don't think there's anything coming out on Netflix for a couple.
You might get some respite for a couple of weeks. Did you watch Bandersnatch? Or play Bandersnatch, rather? I
did, and I really wanted to cover it, but I couldn't play all the endings. And when you miss the opportunity, like these are all out Friday, so this is news. But it was over Christmas, and it was a few days later, and I just thought I'll wait until the rest of the episodes, and then I suddenly clocked that there aren't any rest of the episodes. It's like a Christmas special.
Yeah, the rest of the series comes
and
later,
I really should have reviewed it because I did find it very, very pleasantly unpleasant. I mean, typical Black Mirror, but I was very involved in it. It kept making me make these decisions.
For those who don't know, Black Mirror Bandersnatch basically is an episode of Black Mirror where you can choose which way the direction the story goes in. Ultimately, it kind of ends up back at the same point, but I think there's millions of different combinations. But it's a bit like playing, one of those old adventure games from a computer. And in fact, the story of the episode is about someone making a adventure computer game in the 80s based upon a book that's a similar kind of thing, where you can go to choose how the story goes. And you choose how the thing goes. But there's an absolutely brilliant bit in it where you get to say to the character, who are you? And you can say, it's Netflix. I'm Netflix.
Yeah.
And then you have to explain to this guy in the 1980s what Netflix is. And that was genius.
Yes, there's
absolute genius.
The little Netflix aside was really well done. You got and you have to play it twice to get that option. But when you get the Netflix option, yeah, it's
really, really clever. So it's worth having a crack at. Basically, to get through it, if you don't, you can sort of die in 20 minutes and that's it. Then you have to start again. But if you do the whole thing all the way through, it basically takes an hour and a half. So, but it's good fun. It's a gimmick, but it's an interesting gimmick, and it's something that couldn't be done anywhere other than Netflix, I guess, or a streaming service of that nature. So it's certainly worth checking out.
Okay. I think if I'm honest, I prefer the Black Mirror episodes that aren't so utterly entrenched in bleak.
They're usually quite bleak, though.
It's just, I mean, but there are a few that
only
aren't.
like
Yeah,
San
exactly.
Junipero is about the only one I can think of that has a happy ending.
I think there are a couple. Well, it doesn't even have to be happy, but there's something more to it. When it goes full bleak, which is almost every episode, it's just head scratchingly. I mean, I know that it's supposed to be more meaningful that way, but I think that as a show, Black Mirror's overdone the bleakness to the point where you just wait for the horrific, darker than dark ending. Whereas it might be nice to do something a little bit more optimistic once in a while.
I've never seen it. Never seen any of them. So, don't know what you're talking about.
Well, some of the earlier ones are much shorter. You should dip into it. Watch a couple of the highlights over the first few episodes. Some of them are quite poignant. They're not often high concept.
The very first episode is remarkably prescient because it's about a prime minister having to shag a pig. So,
I wonder where he got that idea.
It's a bit like a modern day Twilight Zone. They're nice. They're nice little bite size.
Yeah, I do like Charlie Brooker. It's just I've never gotten around to watching this, so it's just something I've always thought I'm gonna watch it and never gotten around to it.
To be fair, Charlie Brooker has a long and distinguished history of things that he does turning into actual what starts as a comedy program but just becomes real life. You only have to watch Nathan Barley.
Yeah.
I mean, that is modern media.
Barley.
I believe I've even actually seen someone use the phrase "well weapon" in deadly seriousness. So that, and he and Chris Morris. I mean, let's face it. You watch Brass Eye now, and it's less ridiculous than most modern news program.
Oh yeah, Brass Eye.
Absolutely, yeah,
spot on.
It was genius, absolute genius.
And he will be forever loved for giving us the word pedogeddon, which is just endlessly useful.
I think going along this line, I think the next big break is going to be for Jonathan Pye. I don't know if you follow Jonathan Pye or not. It's very much internet based at the minute, but he seems to be in the same vein, doing the same type of thing, although it's more relevant to politics at the minute. But I think, again, I've seen some other things that he's done, and I think he's another one that could, be interesting as time goes on. But it's Jonathan Pye. He's absolutely brilliant. So on the money at the minute.
Got plenty of material to work with at the moment.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, what's just extraordinary about Day to Day and Brass Eye is that if you like, the bloke who's doing the Jonathan Pye thing is a year. If you like, it's looking a year in advance of where we'll probably inevitably end up. At the time, you could watch the Day to Day especially, and it was just a sort of absurdity thing, and it's like, well, this is fantastically surreal. Now you realize that 20 years later that is actually the path that news has taken, and it has taken the best part of 2 decades for it to reach that point of absurdity where I don't know, it's one of my favorite memes. I hate using the word meme, but it is the correct one on Twitter, is where someone will just pair a 2019 news article, and then the next photo is Chris Morris in Brass Eye Presenter mode. It's like, if he'd said that, it's like, that's absolutely on point. So just fantastic thing. Yeah. But I, like you, haven't watched any of the Black Mirrors because I just time is fleeting, and our mortality and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's an investment of time that I haven't been able to make just yet. So, but I intend to get around to it. It might be another 20 years, but I will get around to it. Right, okay. So if we're going to go outside cars, away from our televisions, and go into the real world, what can we go and see at the cinema?
Yeah, so only briefly into the real world before going into a darkened room where you don't talk to anyone.
That was the joke. Go on, guys.
Well, we've got that film that we refused to talk about at the last podcast, which is Alita, coming out on Wednesday.
They should have just called it Alita. This Battle Angel thing, it makes it sound a bit naff, doesn't it, really?
Well, I
don't know. I think I have to be honest. I would, if I can, in terms of job descriptions, that's pretty cool. That's one for a business card, isn't it? What's your occupation? Battle Angel. Well,
I think the original manga was called Battle Angel Alita, the other way round. And so they must have gone, let's call it Alita. Oh, what about the Battle Angel bit? Let's stick that on the end.
Probably the next one will be Alita ... something else, and so
Yeah,
on.
cuddly friend, something.
Yeah.
So that looks interesting. I followed it from when it was Cameron doing it, and it looked intriguing. And amongst all of the other projects that he was planning to do, including Restore the Abyss, but I don't know about Rodriguez. He's got a good handle on doing a lot with a limited budget, but he hasn't got a huge track record for masterpieces or any. But his movies are still fun, so there might be some fun there.
Yeah, I'm going to go and see it, but I'm going in from a lower perspective. I think I'm not expecting too much from this because I think it's taken so long to get here, a lot longer than it was originally planned, which screams re-edits, reshoots, things not quite working. So I think it'll look spectacular. Cameron's stuff always does. Even though it's not his name on it, its fingerprints are all over it, as is his producer. And it'll look spectacular. I'm sure it'll have a few spectacular bits, but for me, it's just, I don't know, it's something about it. I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit hesitant over it. We'll have to see how it pans out. And they've done weird things to fix her eyes, but I think that's probably something we ought to cover once we've seen it. But I think test audiences were concerned about the size of her eyes.
Yeah, she looks, broadly speaking, like, well, I mean, it's just like live action anime, so whether that blows your frock up or not, I don't know.
Steve's been rather quiet on this one.
No, just letting you talk. I think it's taken a long time because originally Cameron was going to do it, and then he did Avatar instead, and then he was going to do it after Avatar, but then he decided to stay in the Avatar world forever, it seems. So he passed the screenplay, which he wrote, on to Robert Rodriguez. It'd be interesting to see what Rodriguez does with a $200 million budget, because as Kaz just said, he's predominantly known for making films on relatively small budgets. It looks like the money's up on screen. It's the question of whether it holds together as a film. Because what I've heard from early reviews is that it's basically like a prologue to something else. So you come out of the cinema thinking like, well, I want to see. Can we see the rest of the story, please? Which is a lot of films do that now. A lot of films seem to be setting up franchises rather than just telling you a story. And that's
Ghost in the Shell.
Well, yeah, a lot of films now, they're all worried about, they all think like, we've got to set up a franchise. They set up all this stuff and then don't answer any of the questions because they're going to do that in the next film. They feel like, no, why don't you start by making a good film?
Yeah.
And then if we want more, we'll tell you by going to see it at the cinema a lot, and you'll make lots of money, and then you can go and do. So Avatar, for example, works as a standalone film, but clearly there's stuff in there which Cameron's now going to take off into other directions with the new films. But so many films I go and see now, you watch it and think like, okay, well, but is it going to get going?
To be fair, the ultimate example of that, I mean, let's be honest. I thought you were going to segue effortlessly into the Hobbs and Shaw trailer anyway. You can make a passable summer medium budget flick aimed at young adults, and then nearly 20 years later have a film which notionally exists in the same universe with none of the same people in it, and a budget which is up there with NASA. I just like the idea of that very much.
I've got to say, I've never seen any of the Fast and Furious films. I watched that trailer and I'm thinking, yeah, I want to go and see that. That looks good.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah,
this could be the first film to win the Nobel Prize.
It looks tremendous.
Did you see that Daily Mash article? Jason Statham to try his hand at acting. Very unkind. Because,
Yeah, I'm going to go and see Alita in IMAX and 3D. Unfortunately, it won't be till not when it comes out. I've got time, but it'll be the week after. But I'm sure it'll look. It'll be eye candy if nothing else.
Yeah, I've already had a look and seen what the weather forecast is going to be and what the temperature is going to be, just to see if I can safely make it over to the Metro Centre and back again.
Yourself.
As opposed to just wildly oversteering into a lamppost.
It's been like that all week. I've been looking at the weather thinking, Christ, I'm going to be stuck in the house all week because I can't get out.
I would love it. Presumably you've got some sort of in-car, screen and stuff like that. I would love it if Ford had the presence of mind to go, these conditions are lethal for Mustang owners. So you just get in and just a big skull appears on the screen. It's like, just don't.
Starts playing Netflix.
That would be the tie-in to end all tie-ins, yeah.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
anyone from Ford is listening to this, there you go. That's all you need to do. Although possibly admitting in public that your car is a death trap in certain weather conditions may or may not be a sales sensation later on. I don't know.
Anyway, if the weather is good, I'm going to go and see that. So I have been looking. It looks like it's going to be quite mild middle of the week. So if it is, I'll go and see that. There's also a big film opening on Friday, Kaz. I say a big film. The first one was a big movie. Not so sure about the second one.
You're obviously talking about If Beale Street Can Talk, yeah?
No.
No, I didn't think so. On Friday, we happen to have the next film from Moonlight's director, Barry Jenkins, If Beale Street Could Talk, which is supposed to be amazing and probably will be up for an Oscar in the near future. But if you want something a bit more grounded and dramatic, then Lego Movie 2 is out on Friday. Now, early feedback hasn't been particularly favourable to this. Yeah. The kids absolutely love the Lego movies, Ninjago, Batman. I mean, I'm still got my hopes up for this, and I can't see it not being a lot of fun.
It's written by Lord and Miller, who wrote the first. Well, they directed the first Lego movie. They're just writing this one, and up till now, that their track record's been pretty good in terms of stuff they've written. So I still hold out hope for it. But I think the Lego movie was such a surprise, wasn't it? Because you went into it thinking, I don't really want to see an hour and a half advert for Lego, and what it actually was that it was an anti-consumer, anti-commercial film with Lego characters.
It's just like with Batman. I don't think I ever expected the Lego Batman movie to give us like one of the best interpretations of Batman I'd come across.
Yeah, I watched that again on the plane recently. I haven't gone to the cinema to see it, and yeah, it wasn't quite what I was expecting first viewing round. Second viewing, I thoroughly enjoyed it because I knew what to expect second time around. Not as good as the original Lego movie, which I still think is a work of genius, absolute work of genius, for all the reasons that Steve's just mentioned.
I haven't seen it. Don't.
Just while we were talking there, Instagram N33RPM has just said, because we said last week we were going to swap our roles around on the podcast for 1 week, we're going to do each other's jobs. He just says, why don't you all jump in the Mustang and do the podcast from the Mustang? So yeah, that would just end in disaster.
We wouldn't fit in it. Would we fit in it?
You're small. You're small enough for the back.
And we get a quality YouTube moment watching you fold yourself into the back seat anyway, so it's all win. And as we know, Phil has been videoing every aspect of this car, so watching you sort of contort yourself into the back of it would just be grist for the mill. It's interesting, just as a brief aside, because I've brought up exactly the same photograph. Until one of your friends mentioned it, it would have never actually been of any concern to me, but that asymmetric stripe does wildly aggravate my OCD as well. I know it's a traditional Ford racing stripe, but traditionally it was offset. So a centerline non-symmetrical stripe just makes my brow twitch. It's just really weird. But
I've gotten used to it now, Ed. Plus, Ford force you to pay for that, so it's not going anywhere at the minute.
Oh, no, I figured that. And also, it'll have had snow on it for the last couple of days anyway, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah. But getting back to movies.
Yeah.
Anything else we should go and see this week, Kaz?
I think they'll see a lot.
Okay.
What about All Is True?
I have no idea what All Is True is.
It's the Kenneth Branagh film about Shakespeare.
Well, there you go.
Written by Ben Elton. He's
on
a bit of a Shakespeare run right now, given he's also writing Upstart Crow, which, interestingly, obviously makes sense now. I wonder why Kenneth Branagh was in Upstart Crow at Christmas, but I guess that's why. This is sort of a more serious take on the latter years of Shakespeare's life, with Branagh as Shakespeare and Judi Dench as Anne Hathaway.
Well, that's where they're going wrong, because Upstart Crow works because it doesn't take anything seriously. It's just it's one of the select things of original content that the BBC has released for me over the last couple of years where it's just peerless, and the collection of people they've assembled to do it makes it work. I mean, Lisa Tarbuck in particular is one of the most underrated for me. She's still incredibly underrated for just how clever and just how funny she is in almost anything she does. So yeah, I love that.
And Mark Heap is just genius.
Well, Mark Heap is a national treasure. We haven't come round to fully accepting that yet, but yes, going back to all the stuff he used to do in Big Train and Green Wing and stuff like that, he's done some amazing things over the years. But yes, I don't know. I mean, I just find that Mr. Branagh does have a nasty habit of taking himself a bit too seriously. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, obviously, I won't watch it for at least another 10 years, so that's by the by. But, I have a sneaking suspicion it won't be a laugh a minute.
No.
Or indeed a laugh an hour, or a laugh a film. So see how it goes.
It'll be about as funny as one of Shakespeare's comedies.
You take that back, you filthy bastard. I'm sorry, some Shakespeare things are, provided that you actually see them by people being done in a way that actually people, care, they are funny. Although I do, it must be said that the Upstart Crow thing where they all treat Hamlet as a comedy, that's actually very funny, because yes, when the moment that you you look at it in any way, shape, or form, it's more absurd than Hobbs and Shaw. So
I always found that with Shakespeare, comedy was just his code word for meaning he's not going to kill everyone at the end, and tragedy is where everyone's going to die. So that's all that defined comedy and tragedy. I never found any of the comedies particularly funny at all. Maybe occasionally whimsical. He could probably hit whimsical, but I don't think he ever cracked a joke.
Are you saying that you wouldn't entrust him with a significant movie budget in 2019?
No.
I wouldn't entrust him with the Lego movie,
no. Sorry, Will, you're off the A-list, mate. All right, yeah. No, all right, Phil's desperately trying to bring this back on.
Yeah,
I'm
Blu-ray releases, Phil. What's coming out?
What, you're asking me? I don't know.
Well, we've got a couple of 4K releases. So we got Bad Times at the El Royale, which I enjoyed a lot. Yeah, that's coming out with Atmos. And we've got Venom, which is another big one.
Sorry, Kaz, Bad Times at El Royale is Dolby Atmos and HDR10+, which was the first movie with HDR.
I did not know that. Yes, I think I heard that. I was wondering why it didn't have Dolby Vision, but it's got HDR10+. Oh, I'm looking forward to that, rising. And Venom.
You're not. I'm looking forward to it also.
Venom does have Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, but unfortunately Venom's crap. Yeah. How it made 800 million at the box office, God only knows.
There are a lot of people, and I was going to say women, but there's a lot of people because it works in all manners. People would actually pay money to watch Tom Hardy read the phone book at them. So he has quite significant pull in all senses of the word, which isn't bad for someone who's a dwarf. So
I think it's just the Marvel moniker. But other than those two, which are available on 4K, Blu-ray and DVD, you've got Criterion's release of 24 frames. You've got the entire Cloverfield collection 1 to 3. They've all been out in 4K already, but you can buy the set. Actually, I'll tell a lie. The third one may not have had a release. The Netflix one.
No, I don't think
it's on the list there, Kaz.
No, I mean it may not have had a release before.
Prior to this,
all right.
So
okay.
yeah, so that's getting a separate.
Oh yes, it is getting a separate one. It's on the list.
That you do not need to pick up by itself. Watch it on Netflix and decide for yourself. Death and Nightingales, a complete series, is out on Blu-ray and DVD. Not sure it's out on anything else. Rosa Luxemburg. It's out on Blu-ray and DVD. Sweeney the movie, Blu-ray DVD, and Sweeney 2.
This is the original Sweeney.
Throwback.
So Sweeney ! So it's Sweeney! The movie. And it's actually really good. It's like a sort of a political thriller. Sweeney 2 is just cops and robbers, but Sweeney's ! Is actually worth checking out. I might get those, in fact, because I remember watching Sweeney 2 at the cinema. And it's really funny because halfway through the film, they suddenly realise it's not a TV show anymore, and they can swear. And so suddenly everyone starts saying, but up until that point, no one's sworn at all. And you're like, did I just suddenly think, hang on, lads, we can start swearing in this? Because it just suddenly starts happening halfway through the film.
Nice.
It's very strange.
The Sweeney isn't going to look right unless it's released on VHS.
Was it not shot? Was it not shot on film?
Yes, no, these are two movies. These are cinema films. They're shot on.
Yeah, but the
35mm.
series was shot on film as well.
Yeah, that
was
was shot 16mm. Yeah. Like the Sweeney, the movie, you get to see Diane Keane's tits. So there you go. That's what it's most famous for.
And that's what we've come to.
That's what it says on the front.
Well, that's what Steve's come to.
front.
That was a big deal in the late 70s, early 80s. That's what kept you going through the long cold night.
So it's got in the. So it's got in the front of the box, is it? You get to see her tits, Steve Withers, AVForums.
That would be. I would pay them to put that on the front of them.
This always reminds me of that subreddit, Watch It for the Plot, where it's basically just people carving GIFs, however they're fucking pronounced, of just every aspect of nudity there's ever been since, 1912 silent films, into just a big authoritative list on Reddit. That's clearly what the internet was designed for. So
It's really a competent political thriller, and you get to see Diane Keane's tits. There you go. What do you want?
Steve Withers, 6 stars out of 5.
Right, enough. Go on. Pull it together for people. Right, so that's the Blu-ray releases this week, and that's what you can look forward to. So, just to wrap up on the podcast this week, there's a few things going on. One of them is a major awards ceremony, which they said a while back they were going to be more populist in what they
they extended the number of Best Picture nominations to up to 10. In order to include more popular films, and then they were going to do the popular award, which they lasted about 5 seconds before someone pointed out that was really stupid.
Yeah,
and they decided maybe not to do it. But the Best Picture nominations for this year's Oscars include Black Panther, so that's pretty popular. Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favourite, Green Book, Roma, A Star Is Born, and Vice. If I had to pick one out of that lot, I'd say the most likely contenders Green Book, which is essentially a racial version of Driving Miss Daisy. But
Has Viggo Mortensen's behaviour, or is that not the right?
No, Viggo Mortensen got stick for something that I think he didn't necessarily deserve to get stick for, but I'm not going to go into because I don't want to cause any controversy. All I can say is it won the Producers Guild Award, which is usually an indicator of best film. It's got a positive message. It's not going to offend anybody. Roma will win Best Foreign Language Films. I don't think they're going to give it Best Picture as well. Star Is Born's an outside chance to win, or it could be Bohemian Rhapsody, which would be bizarre. But Bohemian Rhapsody, Green Book, and Star Is Born are the three most likely contenders, I think.
Do you think Rami Malek might get Best Actor?
I think he's strong.
Best Actor, yes.
Yeah.
I do believe he's going to win Best Actor. Best Actress probably will go to Glenn Close, although maybe Olivia Colman. But no one's ever heard of him in America, so it's more likely to go to Glenn Close. And she's been around a long time, and she probably deserves one at this point.
So,
Best Supporting Actor, Mahershala Ali for Green Book. There should be a second win in, I think, 3 years. He seems like the front runner there. Best Supporting Actress. Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk is a contender. I think Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz will cancel one other out because they're both in the favourite. But Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk, I think, is a contender for Best Supporting Actress. Best Director is going to go to Alfonso Cuarón. He just won the DGA award last night. And it will mean that in the last 6 years, the Best Director has won 5 years out of 6 by a Mexican.
Build the wall.
Alfonso Cuarón, one Guillermo del Toro, and 2 Alejandro Iñárritu. So, 5 out of 6. Animated feature is definitely going to go to Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, which is though he deserves because it's absolutely brilliant. And I'd love to see Lord and Miller winning an Oscar when they got sacked off of Solo last year. So that would be nice bit of justice for them. And in terms of adapted screenplay, well, the rest of adapted screenplay is going to be, God knows.
Nobody cares past this point. We're now heading on to best use of soft drinks in a movie.
Okay, so that's Steve's quick look at the Oscar nominations. We will see who the winners are when, Steve? Is it the 9th of February, is it?
I've no idea, Phil. I don't care. I think just cut out the last 5 minutes.
Okay, right, so...
This is 24th of February.
Thank you.
Isn't that when we're at Bristol?
After Bristol.
Sorry?
Just after Bristol. Bristol's the 22nd.
Sorry, I just view everything in February. Is it happening before or after the Bristol show? The Bristol show is it's on the Academy Film Awards. I mean, Bristol's where it's at.
Okay, so that's Steve's look at the Oscars. We'll see who wins and how correct Steve was or not when that happens. Right. So to wrap up, there's a couple of news stories that we need to go through. I guess the one that Steve will want to talk about is the fact that a digital service is closing down, Steve. And once again, we're seeing that collecting your movies online or in the digital realm is not quite as safe as people think it is.
No, it's not. And we've talked about this before in the past. There's this concern that with streaming services, films or programs disappear on a worrying regularity, with worrying regularity, unless it's maybe made by the streaming service in question. So if it's a Netflix produced show, it would be there. But that movies have a bad habit of just disappearing. And if you've been using things like Ultraviolet to curate your movie collection in a non-physical manner, bad news, because that's being closed down. And they're saying that you shouldn't lose most of your library because you can transfer it across to a retailer like iTunes or someone like that. But most of it isn't good enough, is it? I mean, the fact is that they just decided, we're not going to do this anymore because it doesn't make economic sense. But it just leaves people in the lurch.
Now, Steve, I've never used Ultraviolet, so very, very quickly, what is it? Because my understanding is that... What was it? Because my understanding is that you had to buy physical media to then get the code.
Yeah, you bought the disc, and then you'd there'd be a code, and then you could use the code to create a library of films digitally, rather than just having to use the disc itself. And that means obviously you could watch it on different devices as well. But a lot of people who use the codes don't necessarily have the discs and have built up a library of films. And now it's just being shunted across to you're having to rely on other services in order to be able to still access your library from the cloud, as it were. And in the UK in particular, it's an issue because at the moment at least, iTunes, Microsoft Movies, and Google Play don't have an ability to link with Ultraviolet, so you can't just transfer your libraries across to those particular retailers. It's just what it is. It's just a worrying trend that what we're seeing, and this is what we're going to talk about in the next story as well, is a fragmentation of the marketplace and a lack of solidity, if you like, to what you can and can't access. Because ultimately, if you own something digitally, you don't really own it. You can't bequeath it to anyone. You can't physically give it to anyone. It's just there somewhere in the ether, and it can be taken away from you at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. Do you want to quantify that? Films, because music, I've got my files. They do not exist in the cloud. They are
I guess anything you've stored locally on a hard drive, you can say, and then presumably backed up, because what happens if the hard drive gets damaged or burnt or destroyed?
I have more than one backup.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to have it stored locally and backed up to assure some kind of longevity to your collection.
But you could say that
if you had a house fire, you lose all your discs. So there is that aspect to it. But my point is that particularly anything that's stored remotely is outside of your control to a large extent. And what we're seeing now is a fragmentation of the marketplace as well. So it's down to the studios. You have to pay for their service, and they will tell you what you can and can't watch, and when you can and can't watch it. And for me, it's as a film collector and someone who wants to own things physically, and unfortunately, what we're seeing even more so is at CES, for example, is that there used to be disc announcements and that sort of stuff at CES, but no one's talking about physical media anymore. It's all just digital media.
Yeah.
And this is the last physical format we're going to have, and it's not being supported very well. I mean, for example, stuff's not being released in 4K on disc when it could be. For example, I got quite excited for Christmas because I thought, there's going to be a 4K release of It's a Wonderful Life, but it's only available to download. It's not available as a disc, which is really annoying. So that's a worrying trend. Or we've got trends where some releases in some countries are missing things like Dolby Atmos, for example, or don't get a 4K release at all. Like All the Money in the World, which I watched recently, was on Blu-ray because it didn't get a 4K release. I know the film bombed, but it's just becoming a case of you're at the mercy of the studios more than we ever were before, and it's just depressing.
Yeah,
really.
One side of that though, with the disc stuff, is replication as well, Steve, because we've gone from
There's only one replicating plant left.
Yeah, there's only one left, and there's a long queue.
In the States, there's only one left, which is why 2001 got delayed in America for so long, when it was available for over a month before in the UK, well, in Europe, because they've only got one replication plant in Mexico left that's doing all the discs. So you're getting delays on releases. You're getting a lot of flaws and faults and things like that happening. It's really depressing because we are at the fag end now of physical media.
Yeah, which brings us on to the next sort of subject, which is, it's all linked together really, because that is the fact that, you know, Kaz has been sitting watching lots of Netflix. Netflix has been hell of a successful, really successful. It's blown up into a multi-billion-dollar business from what was a disc rental company. Yeah. And look at it now. It is now a giant in the media world. And of course the studios have looked at this and thought, well, hang on a minute, we could be doing this ourselves and making lots of money off the stuff that we own, the IP that we have. And we're beginning to see that happening now. And you're also going to see companies out with come into this as well. So Apple and Criterion. Now, Criterion are a small film company in the States who take certain films that the major studios are not that interested in, and they do the restoration work, and they put nice extra packages together and that kind of thing. They're going to launch a streaming service, and Apple are going to launch a streaming service. We already know that Disney are going to do their own thing. So what we're seeing is a complete fragmentation of the market. And if I was Netflix, no wonder I'm throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks at the minute, because their domination of the market is not going to last that much longer. And we're already seeing it in other territories, not in the UK, but certainly in the States. All of the Disney stuff has disappeared from Netflix. We're now beginning to see the Marvel universe stuff start to be cancelled and so on Netflix as well, and on other services, because you just know that all of those franchises are going to be moving towards a Disney platform. So where we're paying $7.99 or whatever it is for Netflix, I'm sure I'm paying a lot more for the 4K service now. I think it's about $11.99, is it not? But whatever you're paying, you're going to have to pay that 4 or 5 times in the future if you want everything that you can access at the minute. It's not looking great, to be honest, is it?
I think Apple will have to really pull out some good shows to get in on this. I feel like Criterion is just another one. I don't know whether you've seen on Amazon, you can buy select channels. So you can buy like the BFI channel, or you can buy Arrow Video channel, and you can get these niche channels as an add-on for an extra £8 a month. I don't know who would buy them, but you can do them. I feel like Criterion is going down that avenue. You could add it as a package. And if you want essentially the movies they restore, except you want to just stream them rather than buy the discs, then I think that that's what will entice people to get that. But I don't think they're a contender to take over Amazon's portion or Netflix's portion. Apple could be, but I haven't seen anything in terms of their content that they're going to front run as big. In fact, I think the only service that really touts big, I've got to have this content, is generally Netflix. I think
Disney Plus have got a good shout, because they've also got the Marvel and Star Wars.
Guns blazing, but the only thing is, at least for us in the UK, I mean, Disney Plus doesn't really exist. I mean, we still enjoy all of their content on Netflix, which is the default. So they win in all territories other than the States. I don't know when
Disney Plus though is going to be rolled out globally. It's not going to be a US service.
Yeah, you say that, but I mean, the US love to have stuff ahead of everybody else. So there's going to be a real quibble over whether rolling Disney Plus out means they have to roll it out at the same time, because Netflix is universal release dates. Now, the US never likes universal release dates. They always like to be a little bit ahead. They always like to show movies ahead and then have.
That's not really true. Most Marvel films open in the UK before the US.
By days.
Or a couple of weeks in some cases.
Yeah, wasn't that because of a football match or something?
No, that was the reverse.
That was
when Ant-Man and the Wasp was a month later in the UK because of the World Cup.
But
ordinarily, we get Captain Marvel first and we get Endgame first, actually.
You do, yeah, Endgame a couple of days before, maybe?
So,
something, I don't know. But
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think they just follow the Netflix model, which is that they release stuff at midnight LA time. which is why it's always 8 a.m. our time on a new thing.
Just work on the principle. They all hate you. Come over to my side, these things where you watch them intermittently, if at all, and listen to more music, where it all gets released at the same time. It's available across multiple platforms. It's far too entrenched for anyone to try and play silly buggers. But then
if everybody did move across Ed, it wouldn't take long before that all started to happen with it. Which is the point with the Netflix model. You know, it's been successful. It was a niche thing for a long time. And then all of a sudden it exploded. And now that they can see that there's money in it, everybody wants their piece. And it'd be the same with music. If everybody moved over to music and started doing that, it wouldn't be long before everybody wanted their cut. It's business at the end of the day. It's a capitalist society that we live in. These things are going to happen. It's just, as an end user, as a film fan, I hate picking and choosing. And it's going to have to be a case of picking and choosing which service you want based on what has enough of the content to make the cost worthwhile. Because we ain't going to be able to own it in the next 10 years, are we, Steve? I mean, discs are going to disappear. So you know, unless you're shoving stuff onto a hard drive and putting it away for future use, that's the way we're going to consume our content going ahead. And it's not going to be cheap.
I'm just looking happily at my record player at this point. You know,
which ironically is going to become the last physical media.
The last physical format. First and the last. You reactionary technology changes, look where it's got you. Where you're debating whether you're going to have 18 streaming services on the go. And yeah, good luck to you.
That'll do. Can we go now?
But hey, I was the one trying to keep it on time. You were the ones all going off on bloody tangents.
Ed, mainly. Shut up, Ed.
Right, so tonight's podcast was brought to us by who, Ed? Who are you drinking this evening?
What have we got? There's been an Asahi. There's been Warsteiner, something from Fuller's, which is orange. It's all right. I'm not doing this sober.
Are you still talking about speaker packages?
And then I'm going to have a look in the bottom shelf of my freezer for some previously frozen microwave curry reduced for quick sale after this, because I know how to have a good time. I'm going to sit there eating my £2 defrosted microwave meal in front of a pair of £14,000 loudspeakers because my life is one of disparity.
Yep, and on that bombshell, I'm off to edit this podcast and then watch the Super Bowl. So that's Sunday night taken care of. My thanks to Steve Withers.
This is going to ruin my whole day.
Kaz Harlow.
Nothing's over while I'm breathing.
And Ed Selley.
Out there beyond that fence, every living thing that crawls, flies, or squats in the mud wants to kill you and eat your eyes for jujubes.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, bookmark AVForums.com for latest reviews, news, and videos. Plus, why not leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. Beer makes Ed such a better person. I hope you all agree. I'm Phil Hinton. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
It's Jujubes, actually, Ed.
I don't care. I've never seen the
Since you haven't seen the film, you wouldn't know that.